the CBS Broadcast Center in Los Angeles, this is CBS2 News at 5 p.m.
From the coast to the Inland Empire, it is hot out there, and it's only going to get worse over the next few days. Well, Mother Nature is turning up the thermostat, and no one will be spared.
In fact, many areas of the Southland right now gearing up for triple-digit heat.
That's right. We have team coverage tonight from the hot temperatures to the dangerous surf.
But we begin with CBS2 meteorologist Evelyn Taft tracking that major warm-up. Beth?
Hi, guys. Really incredible how much heat we're expecting to pack over the next couple of days. Usually, when we see excessive heat warnings like these, usually just for our inland spots in the basin. But now they're spanning all the way to the valley. So pretty much everybody expecting extreme heat over the next couple of days. We're expecting record-breaking temperatures, in addition to that critical fire weather lasting for the next few days as well. So it's not only going to be hot, but it will be dry and windy as well. We're going to have your forecast for the rest of the week and the weekend. That's when it's really going to start to boil, coming up in just a bit.
Okay, thanks, Eb. And they are really feeling the heat in the Inland Empire.
Yeah, CBS 2's Nicole Comstock is live in Rialto, where people are trying to get relief from those scorching temperatures out there. Nicole?
They certainly were trying to get some relief, coming out to public parks and taking a nap maybe underneath a shade tree. It's 101 degrees right now in Rialto, which sounds hot until you hear that tomorrow it might be 114 degrees here. We also spoke with a local doctor tonight who has a warning about heat stroke. When the heat hammers down on the Inland Empire, working outside is a lot harder.
Put like a shirt behind your neck so your neck doesn't get all burned.
Sylvester Sanchez and his crew were under the blazing sun all day, framing out a new building in Rialto.
Whenever you start feeling, like exhausted or hot, we'll take a little break, water break.
And doctors say that's essential during this summer heat wave, expected to bring 4 days of triple-digit temperatures, especially in San Bernardino County, where
I call it heat stroke canyon because they can really get in a lot of trouble.
Victor Waters is the chief medical officer at Dignity Health St. Bernardine. He says dry skin, a flushed face, nausea, headaches, and dizziness are all indications someone might be approaching heat stroke.
Your temperature rises, your body is starting to not function well, your kidneys are trying to contract to retain whatever fluids are in your system.
Try to hang in there. We have a lot of water.
Rocio Aceves is one of plenty families who brought their kids to camp out in the shade at local parks, and they're getting tuckered out pretty quick.
Why don't you like it?
Because it's very hot. Even if you go down the slides, it gets you really sweaty.
And that slide was hot to the touch when the temperature ticked up toward 101 degrees.
As you can see, he's a little hot.
Nancy Castano's dog alternating between playing and panting.
He's trying to escape the heat for a moment.
So the big takeaways there are just make sure that you and your pets get enough water, especially tomorrow. And if you feel like you're getting overworked for any reason, just get out of the direct sunlight and take a break. Live in Rialto, Nicole Comstock, CBS 2 News.
Well, as it gets hotter, be sure to get our up-to-the-minute forecast on the CBS2 weather app. Download it free for Apple and Android.
We have some breaking news right now. Police have made an arrest in the case of a boy abandoned at Union Station. The suspect is believed to be the child's mother. Tonight, CBS 2's Lisa Siegel is live at LAPD headquarters with more. Lisa?
Well, hello, you two. You know, breaking news. First, we want you to know the little boy is now safe. The 7-year-old is with family, with a relative who saw his picture on TV and came and called LAPD. Now, the woman, as you said, under arrest right now is believed to be his biological mother.
We're just full of life and just wanted to play around Union Station, honestly. And it's just really upsetting that someone would just leave a cute little boy just by himself.
But that's exactly what LAPD says happened. A little boy with no ID, unable to communicate or speak for some reason, was left unattended at Union Station last night. And now, this woman, believed to be his biological mother, is under arrest. These photos from LA Metro and confirmed by witnesses who saw the two together.
I just couldn't imagine just walking without coming back for someone so special.
Authorities say the woman left the child at 7 last night, but came back to Union Station at 2 today, where she was arrested. That's 19 hours later. Adrienne Garrett is a supervisor at Cafe Crepe. She says the boy and his mother sat here at a table for about half an hour, and then the woman left him alone for a bit. But he didn't panic.
He was still smiling, still playing around, didn't necessarily seem like afraid at all or abandoned.
After 40 minutes of taking care of the boy, a server spotted the woman heading for the exit of Union Station. She tried to stop her, but it didn't work.
She did just see the woman walking by, and then she did wave her down a little, and absolutely no response was given back to her.
After that, LAP was alerted and tried to speak to the boy. But even now, he has been unable to communicate for some reason, possibly out of fear, possibly a medical condition. And while he has been reunited with a relative, those who helped the boy say they can't believe this happened at all.
So it definitely breaks my heart to see that anything like this could ever happen.
But at least he is safe. Now the biological mother is being interviewed right now. She could face everything from abandonment charges to neglect charges or more. Right now we're downtown. I'm Lisa Siegel, CBS 2 News.
A person is dead, another wounded in a shooting that happened this afternoon in La Habra. Sky 2 over the scene just about an hour ago. Police tell us the shooting happened near El Centro Park. A man in his mid-30s died and a juvenile was shot in the foot and taken to a hospital. No arrests have been made.
And we have more breaking news right now. Another White House shakeup. The head of the Environmental Protection Agency, Scott Pruitt, is out.
CBS 2 political reporter Dave Bryant is here now with the avalanche of ethics allegations and investigations that apparently may have led to that latest resignation. Dave?
That's right, Jeff and Susie. A few hours ago, the president told reporters on Air Force One that EPA Secretary Scott Pruitt resigned on his own accord and that there was, quote, no final straw. But ethics questions about first-class flights, expensive security details, keeping a secret calendar to hide his meetings, and using his position to help his wife get a Chick-fil-A franchise apparently have Pruitt looking for a new job tonight.
Scott Pruitt, Administrator of the EPA.
Embattled EPA Chief Scott Pruitt is out following months of ethics scandals questioning his conduct. President Trump tweeted this on board Air Force One. I have accepted the resignation of Scott Pruitt as the administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency. Mr. Trump praised Pruitt's work rolling back regulations, long a goal of conservatives, but he made no mention of the scandals surrounding Pruitt. In his resignation letter, Pruitt said, the unrelenting attacks on me personally, my family, are unprecedented and have taken a sizable toll on all of us. The Inspector General is in the midst of 5 audits, including Pruitt's spending on security and travel, and Democrats have seized on the $43,000 soundproof booth in his office, which he defended before Congress.
I was not involved in the approval of the $43,000, and if I'd known about it, Congressman, I would have refused it.
Just this week, a whistleblower revealed that Pruitt and his aides scrubbed his public schedule to hide contacts with industry representatives they thought would look bad. Throughout it all, Pruitt managed to hang on, even as the White House lost confidence in him. But the president, told by Republican officials that Pruitt was making personal gains from the regulation rollbacks, stopped short of letting him go.
I'm not happy about certain things, but he's done a fantastic job running the EPA, which is very overriding, but I am not happy about it.
Just yesterday, Pruitt appeared to be in good standing with the president, attending the White House's July 4th picnic on the South Lawn and receiving a shout-out from Mr. Trump.
Administrator Scott Pruitt.
But in this frantic world of the Trump administration, 24 hours can mean the difference between a job and a bye-bye. Now, the president tweeted that Deputy Administrator Andrew Wheeler will be the EPA's interim leader until a new administrator is nominated and confirmed. Wheeler, you should know, is a former lobbyist for the coal industry. Jeff, back to you.
Dave Bryant with Politics Tonight, and we will continue with that trend developing right now. Trump administration's fight to kill California's sanctuary laws is mostly rejected by a Sacramento judge. John Mendez refused to block 2 of them. One required California to review immigrant detention facilities. The other prevented local law enforcement agencies from providing release dates and personal information on jail inmates. But Judge Mendez put on hold a 3rd law prohibiting employers from allowing immigration officials onto their premises without a warrant. He said he reached his decision without any concern for its political consequences.
And developing news tonight in Mexico, 19 people died and at least 31 others were hurt when 2 explosions ripped through fireworks workshops. The dead include 4 firefighters and 2 police officers. They were killed in the second blast after they rushed to the scene to help. It happened in a small town just north of Mexico City. Many people there make a living by making and selling homemade fireworks.
Right now, we are told that President Trump is close to choosing a nominee to the Supreme Court to replace Justice Anthony Kennedy. The president has interviewed, we're told, at least 7 candidates. Those federal judges are believed to be the frontrunners: Brett Kavanaugh and Raymond Kethledge. Both of them clerked for Justice Kennedy. Also on the list, Amy Coney Barrett, Joan Larson, Amol Thapar, and Thomas Hardiman. The president will reveal his choice on Monday. Susie?
U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is headed to North Korea for what's expected to be an intense talk about whether the country is still building nuclear weapons. Now, he and his team left early this morning for Pyongyang. Last month, President Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un signed a deal in Singapore to begin taking steps to denuclearize the region. But U.S. intelligence agencies revealed there is strong evidence right now the communist country is ramping up activity at a nuclear facility. The State Department spokesperson says they are going into this with eyes wide open.
Now, one of the men who ran Fox News is the newest member of the Trump White House. Bill Shine, former co-president of the network, is the president's deputy chief of staff for communications. Shine resigned from last year and Fox News following ex-campaign chairman Roger Ailes and former host Bill O'Reilly as he followed them out the door over the company's sexual harassment scandal. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, hit with an accusation of groping, now admits that he apologized for that incident. It happened at a charity fundraiser in British Columbia, where a female reporter accused Trudeau of inappropriate behavior. Trudeau says he apologized to the reporter, quote, in the moment. Prime Minister says he believes he did nothing wrong, but concedes the reporter might have had experienced it quite differently. This comes at a time that Canada is working on new legislation against workplace harassment.
The protester who climbed the Statue of Liberty on the 4th of July is now dealing with the consequences of the 3-hour standoff. Teresa Okumu was cheered as she left a New York courthouse. She pleaded not guilty to 3 counts, including trespassing and disorderly conduct. Yesterday, police were forced to scale the statue to get her down. Okumu was protesting President Trump's immigration policy of separating undocumented families at the border.
Michelle Obama, our beloved First Lady that I care so much about, said when they go low, we go high, and I went as high as I could.
Well, if convicted, she would face up to 6 months behind bars on each count.
A woman riding a bicycle jumps off before it gets hit by a runaway car. The driver of the car had been shot. Now police are looking for the killer.
Also, it's a race against time to save a dozen young soccer players and their coach trapped inside a Thai cave. The latest setback in the efforts to rescue the group.
And it's never a good idea to try to outrun a tornado. Watch what happens to one family on the 4th of July.